I remember seeing 2001 Space Odyssey for the first time when I was a kid. And of course, I didn't know better to know that, Stanley Kubrick didn't make movies for kids, right? But so, I just watched it thinking this is going to be a cool space movie. As it turns out, it is, so bizarre and so just not at all a movie a kid would normally follow. But I watched the whole thing.
You want to try putting those headphones on?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Let's see how you like it.
Is there a left, right?
I think so.
Okay.
One, two, three.
I'm officially at the age where I have to take my glasses off to see things. So I'm going to look and see if there's a mark on there somewhere.
I think it.
Okay, I'm just going to go with how it is, and we'll see.
How's that feel?
Yeah, not bad.
Do you hear yourself?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Do you mind? So these microphones are like little bubbles of where they pick up sound.
Yep.
So if you can kind of keep it close, you can just move your thing, shift it closer, however you want during this. But also, you don't have to worry about any rules. Literally no rules. Okay? If we want long awkward silence, we marinate in long awkward silence.
That worries me a little bit.
But what you were telling me about Stanley Kubrick, and you saw it as a kid, not knowing it was a kid movie.
Oh yeah.
You saw it in theaters?
Yeah, did I? I must have.
Oh, because you're 60.
I had to have, because I would have been. Yeah, because I couldn't have been any more than 8 or 9 years old, and so it must have been. I'll bet they had it at the cinema used to bring movies used to cycle back through. Right, they didn't just come in once and then go away.
Wait, so it was like an anniversary thing. Because I don't say you
It'd be my guess.
Born in the 60s.
Yeah, I was born 64.
64, and this movie came out 69, I think.
Got to be pretty close.
It was in the 60s.
Yeah,
that's what blows me my mind about that movie is like. That's why I'm like, did they fake the moon landing? Because that is some really good space cinematography. So good
for that era. It was incredible, and so what little kid isn't going to want to go watch rockets in space? And I remember going in. Yeah, it had to have been. It would have been the Twin Cinema, and I don't even know if they had the second cinema yet because there was one, and then they expanded it to 2, so it became the Twin Cinema, and then later, of course, they expanded it further, but. They had they would cycle movies back through. That was just a common thing. You would have a big
Twin
hit
Cinema,
movie.
the one that's close down. Is it the one that's down Kimberly Road?
Yeah, it's like Goody Motors now. Right?
Are you serious? That was this. That's OG. That's been around.
Yeah.
Holy.
Yeah, and it was just up the street from my
gone.
house. I lived about a mile from there, so we'd walk to the theater, and the bowling alley was right there too. So you'd go play pinball at the bowling alley, and then you'd go over and watch the movies. And but yeah, I can remember walking away from that movie just thinking, I have no idea what I just saw. I mean, that was a really weird movie as a kid. I remember thinking, God, that was a weird movie. And then I rewatched it probably in college and thought, what in the hell were my parents thinking letting me go to this movie?
Did Hal scare you?
Oh my God. Everything in that movie scared me. I mean, the
opening scene is great.
Oh
yeah, I love it. The opening scene is fantastic.
Oh, it is once you're an adult.
But you're a kid. You'd
imagine, it's probably like 1972, 73, right? So I'm like 8 or 9 years old, and these apes are going wild, and I'm just thinking,
fighting.
Oh my God. What am I
getting pounced on? It's like all the primal fears.
Oh yeah,
for sure. Tapping into all the primal fears for a kid, like big cat jumping on your back, another tribe showing up, and you got weapons now. I love as an adult. You think about the evolution of technology or something like that. Like whoa.
Oh yeah.
It's like that's a really big thought opening scene right there.
Oh, without a doubt. And you know what? There's a movie that came out not too long ago. What was that called? Tom Hanks. It was called Here. Did you ever see it?
No. Is that the title?
It is. Yeah, it's called Here, and it is a movie that is set up from a single camera standpoint, viewpoint, and it starts with prehistoric times, and you get to see this one location, and the camera stays on that one location.
Is it tripoded, like fixed, or does it move?
Seems like it's fixed, but I'd have to watch again just to be sure because I was kind of mesmerized by the movie. It was really good. Just came out a year or two ago.
That sounds like theater then.
Very much so. It was. Wow. It's really. Honestly, it's one of my favorite movies I've seen in the last 5 years, just because it was so unique in how it was produced, and the cinematography is incredible because they've got one camera view. And they start in prehistoric times, and they come up to this family, and eventually this family owns a house on this same place that these prehistoric creatures were walking, and then prehistoric man, and things like that. And so you get to see then their life, and it's a very cool movie, but it's kind of similar to 2001 because it starts off in a time frame and a scenario that make no sense for what you think you're going to go see.
I used to have this right on this table. Actually, I have fun little artifacts. This is a shot glass made of bone that I got in Mongolia.
Oh, cool. Can I hold it?
Yeah, here.
Okay.
It's pretty cool, huh?
God, yeah. That's cool.
But I used to have this dinosaur tooth. I bought this T-Rex tooth from Fossil Shack in Utah.
No kidding?
Yeah, it was awesome. I would look at it all the time. But then my friend, he was turning 30, and I was like, he's turning into a dinosaur. This would be a better gift than it is just a little thing sin that I forget about. So I gave it to him. But that's what I used. I would pick it up and I would look at it and I would think, try to think exactly what that movie's what is the history? I think I'm so big and mighty, but so did this guy. Oh, yeah. And now I'm holding his tooth.
And you got to go back millions of years to get there, right? And you're thinking I'm holding millions of years in my hand, right? And that to me is, I don't know, that's kind of mind-boggling in some ways, because I just think things that were around a million years ago probably shouldn't be in my hands, but what a cool thing when they are, and what a cruel thing to do.
You hold
to your
a
buddy.
sacredness. You hold a sacredness to it, though. You're
yeah.
It probably shouldn't be in my hands.
Yeah. Absolutely. But it's still the cruelty of sending that to your buddy and telling that he's a fossil. That is a harsh reality to throw on your friend. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was only 30.
Yeah. We went to high school together. It was, but it's just more entertaining that way. And I just like to have fun in this life.
Yeah. And you can only do that to your friends, right? You would never do that to a stranger.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, maybe. Depends if they have good vibes. Well, that's why I chose this up here, because obviously, we can go on a rant about how awesome that movie is just thematically, cinematically for its age. And you know what I like? You like long takes, clearly. And that movie's full of long takes, but with beautiful ballet music. And it makes it feel like you're watching a ballet. Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I can't imagine having been an actor in that movie, because Stanley Kubrick was kind of a tyrant in the way he was going to make movies, right? I mean, he was going to be his way. It was going to be exactly his vision. And then to do, a take that goes that long, and then imagine it doesn't work, right? Can you imagine being the actor thinking, seriously, we got to go back and do all of that over? That's why they say people who went into the military adapt to the film industry pretty well.
Oh,
but you kind of need like Quentin Tarantino. I think I hear the similar stories about he's really hard on his Django Unchained. Have you ever seen that?
Oh yeah.
I heard Jamie Foxx talking about how he was cautious about using the N-word or something like that, and he's like, dude, you're not badass Jamie Foxx, you're a slave. You're a slave. Quit acting like you're somebody. And he's like, oh shit, yeah, you're right. That's what he was thinking. And he snaps out. But Quentin Tarantino demands you get into the actual character, who the heck it is, and play it the way he wrote it out to be. Don't be going off the cuff. But it seems like you kind of need that to have a visionary that can. Then it's really their vision.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Otherwise, you wind up with movies that turn into kind of freeform mess.
But sometimes that's an art in itself.
Oh, sometimes if it's designed that way, right?
Yeah.
But if there was a vision and then that happens, you just kind of walk away thinking that did not turn out like anybody planned. So it's there are occasional. A good movie though that does do that, that's awfully freeform is isn't that terrible? It was a remake of a 60s movie where they have the big heist in Vegas. Brad Pitt.
Is it Ocean's 7?
Ocean's 11.
Ocean's 11. I haven't. I was gonna watch that on the flight.
I won't tell you anything about it then. So Ocean's 11 is pretty tight. It's pretty tightly made. But then you go to the next one, which I think was Ocean's 12.
Oh, okay, yeah. That's why, because it's multiple versions. And there's is Ocean's 12 the one with a female?
That's Ocean's 8.
Ocean's 8. Right? See, there's so many.
Exactly.
So I kind of disprove it as something worth watching, I guess.
The first one, well worth watching. The second one's still not bad, but it's very freeform. You can tell that they ad-libbed a lot. And it's 12 guys 11 guys and a girl that really like each other a lot in real life, and so they're all actors.
Oh, okay.
So you put them on a screen, you put them on a set together and say go, and they had a ball. And so it's still fun to watch, but it wasn't as tight as it probably needed to be to tell the story they were telling. But 11 is. Yeah, Ocean's 11 is worth your time. If you can go back and watch the original one with the Rat Pack, it's wonderful 1960s
really
movie. Oh yeah.
Okay, I'll give it a shot. Give me 1 second.
Yeah, you bet.
I need to push this button because I got like PTSD of not pushing record. So I need to be able to see these record buttons. There we go. Okay.
Are you telling me that you're a little anal retentive? Is that?
Yeah, I looked. I'm like, I know I hit it, but I don't see the display. So now it makes me wonder: did I actually hit it? Yeah. Well, this is like literally what I do all the time. This is how I do my livelihood now.
Wonderful.
Remember when you first met me?
I do.
Do you really? Because I remember that you had no business letting me come into your honors class. I had a horrible GPA as a kid. And I was fresh out of the Marine Corps. I actually just got turned down by Boise State. And that hit me in the gut like, dang.
I didn't know that. I don't think I knew that you got turned down by Boise State.
I wasn't telling people that.
Yeah.
This is like the first time I told anybody, really. But yeah, they turned me down. It was like a sucker punch. I was like, oh, dang, life really can slam doors in your face. And I came out of the Marine Corps, so I have a GI Bill. I'm like, they'll take me anywhere.
Yeah.
But my GPA of 1.7 when I was in school just was haunting me. And then I come into the CSI and I was like full of energy. I wanted to like attack school and like redeem myself because I knew I could. And I don't know how I ended up finding the honors program or even why I considered it being something worthy. How the heck do you?
You know, I don't remember because I didn't have you in another class. I'm sure somebody probably sent you over to me. I'll bet somebody from advising or from the military advising academic, I can't think of who it was back then, but
it's like Sharon or
might have been. But I'll bet one of them said, "Hey, why don't you go talk to this guy?" Because they kind of know that I have a fondness for good students that don't fit the box, right?
Interesting way to put it.
So the people who are there at the college that have been there a while know that about me, right? And so it's I love it when they will send students over to me like you. And I can remember when you came over, and I do remember that you were thinking that it probably wouldn't work, right? That you may not, but you were interested. Mm-hmm. And you were telling me about your military service, which, that always interests me, right? Because my dad was lifetime military. So I grew up not in the military, but, our house was close enough, right? And so.
What branch was he?
Army. Yeah, he was
20
in
years?
He was in World War II.
What?
He was 18. I had to shut my phone off so it wouldn't keep buzzing. But he turned 18 in 44, I think, 27. No, to 45. And so he got in to the military. He enlisted right at the end of World War II, because he didn't know that it was the end of World War II, and ended up getting. By the time he was sent to the theater, they ended up sending him to occupied Japan.
Whoa!
And so that was where he'd never been out of Idaho basically, and here he is, this kid in Japan, and he loved it. He fell in love with the country and the people. He just adored, even though they're in the middle of a war or at the end of a war, and he just adored everything about it. He started going to sumo matches.
Wow.
And so he decided sumo was fascinating to him. Man, my dad was a big guy.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I see where this road is leading to.
Yes. And then he found judo there too, and just decided to start going and learning. And so he started to learn there. And then he, of course, brought it back with him when he came. But so anyway, that's when he got in the military. And so he was Army until, I couldn't even tell you when, the 50s, probably late 50s. No, it had to been the 60s. He went National Guard. It would have been in the 60s. And he went National Guard. And then he was in National Guard until, I don't know, they probably made him leave because he loved it so much. He wouldn't have left otherwise. And he left as a colonel.
Whoa.
And so but he just loved it. He just loved everything about it.
Yeah, and he was tossing his boys around when you were a kid.
Oh, absolutely.
Brought the judo home, meaning.
Yeah. We played judo from the time we were little, and it was really neat too because my dad, of course, made friends in Japan. And then when he came to back to Idaho, there were a lot of folks that were at the hunt camp, the military the relocation centers that were over by Valley, that area. And so that's where the Japanese
like the Minidoka,
the Minidoka camp. Yeah, it was called the Hunt Camp.
Oh, really?
The name of the town right there is Hunt. And it's just a little tiny place, right?
Yeah.
And so, but it was the Minidoka camp. And so I couldn't even tell you how, but he ended up befriending all sorts of folks that had been in the camp. And he had a real love for their heritage.
Yeah.
And a real respect for them as people. Mm. And so they developed these great lifelong friendships. And so the Matsuokas, and my dad got to be really good friends. They started a judo program back in like 53, I think.
Wow.
And then kept it going after that. So
that is awesome. I can understand why I love Japanese culture as well. Being stationed in Okinawa and then even coming home, I always find so much love for the lore of samurai.
Yeah, yeah. How would you know? I mean, what is it? I mean, is there anything about samurai that just doesn't say cool to the nth degree, right?
One thing.
Yeah.
Having to kind of be like a servant to a corrupt king, possibly.
Because
samurai aren't Ronin.
But with such honor, right?
Yeah, that's the thing about it, though. Yeah. This loyalty is so admirable. Even though, like, that's what it was in the Marine Corps, too, is like, you have to, what do they call it? Instant obedience to orders.
Yeah.
They always say that word. And it's like, if we tell you to charge up at a machine gun nest on a hill and you don't do it, like, we're screwed.
Right.
You have to we have to go.
Yeah. We function as a unit. You don't get to decide which things you're going to do and which you're not, because there's a bigger plan you probably don't have any idea about. And so you got to do your part, right?
And I admire that a lot because I think it's so cool. But for me personally, I think I'm a bit too big of a free thinker. And I got in trouble in the Marine Corps all the time. They're like, why? There's a better way to do this. And they're like, that's not what we want to hear from you.
That is not the question they were looking for. Yeah, they were. Yeah, no, when maybe, but not why. Yeah.
Yeah. But there's a balance too, because I read a lot of like leadership books by former military, Navy SEALs and stuff like Jocko Willink. And I have this new perspective on leadership now after having opened my mind to more knowledge that's out there through books.
Yeah.
And I realized like there's a balance. You got to be a hard ass, but at the same time, stifling the thoughts of subordinates suppresses progress.
Oh, always. Yeah. But, but in anything you do, right? It doesn't matter what kind of company you work for. If you work for a company, there's going to be a big view of things that somebody has a vision for. And you've got to be willing to do your part for. However, the managers that are going to be directing the people, right? Just same as the military, they've got to have an understanding that probably their people know something that needs to be understood at ground level so that the management level can make better decisions. And the smart ones invite that.
Everyone just has to get on the same page that we're working towards the same mission.
Yeah.
We're going for this. I want the same thing you want.
Yep.
I'm not saying this because I'm trying to be lazy.
Yeah, no, and this week we might be doing something that I really dislike, but I have to trust that it's going to work towards something good. But next week, I might be doing exactly the thing I wanted to do.
You know what I think happens from my leadership experience? I think sometimes a boss wants to squeeze every juice out of the fruit. You know what I mean?
Oh, man. Talk about a recipe for disaster, right? Yeah, it's just, you can't do that. You got to let people renew. You got to let them breathe. You got to let them have a life. But, I think time gets kind of compacted for some people's vision. I think they think, no, right now has to be perfect and we need to get everything this minute and for this one thing, and not thinking that, we need to keep this thing going for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 50 years.
You know what this reminds me of? This just feels like a metaphor of capitalism versus communism.
Sure. Yeah.
A little bit. Like if you think about the gulags or something.
Oh, yeah.
Where they just hard labor camp people and we're like, we're going to be productive and we're going to squeeze it out of them.
Yeah.
But it burns out.
Oh, God. Yeah. It burns them out terribly. And all of us have been burned out about something at some point. And it's brutal when it happens. But it's often that's where you learn the lesson not to do that anymore, right? You kind of go, oh, I am going to limit what I'm going to give. I am going to limit my 10-hour, 12-hour, 14-hour days. I'll still give those from time to time, but I'm not going to do it every day.
For guys my age, like a lot of my peers, well, maybe just coming out of the era I came out of, 20s, late 20s, you know, I'm 31 now.
Yeah.
And in that late 20s era, and a lot of my friends, there's this, especially with online, it's blasting like this culture of hustle, work. I read this book by this guy, Grant Cardone, who's like this big entrepreneur in the spotlight these days. And he's all about just working and hustling and making money. And there's this part of his book where he was like, if your wife is mad at you and saying, why aren't you home when you're working late? Like, you tell her, like, you're the one putting the bread on the table and stuff like that. And I'm like, what?
Oh, yeah, that's going to go over real well with my wife, yeah.
But he's like trying to have that alpha dominance. I just go and hunt. You know, you just sit back and keep cleaning the kitchen type of mindset, like story. I think that those characters, they like be really extreme so that they can really grasp an audience.
Oh, without a doubt. You know? And they have a target audience, right? They have people who are disenfranchised from a lot of what's happening that's good. And they feel like they're not getting included in it. And there's a lot of young men, frankly, who are included in that group right now. And I've said this before. I think a lot of what we did with leveling the playing field, right? Getting it so that women had access to all of the features of the world, whether it's education, whether it's work, whether it's home, it doesn't matter, but leveling that playing field, because it wasn't level. I mean, you remember we probably talked about it in class before, that if, you don't have to go that far back, to find when women were property, right? Even in the United States, I mean, they couldn't have credit cards on their own. They couldn't take loans on their own. They couldn't get a divorce, right? Unless they could show legal cause. That's only like 1971 or something like that.
Whoa!
Right, and that's when that's when women could get a credit card by themselves. That's when no fault divorce came along. So you don't have to go back that far and find when women were property. And so we did a really good job, and kudos to the people from the 50s and 60s who got that ball rolling, and probably others. I mean, you go back to the 20s, and you got the suffragettes, right, and the 19s, and right, you get the women's suffrage movement, and all those things moved towards this. But the 50s and 60s society in the U.S. really pushed that forward, right? So the good news, the whole point of telling that is that the good news was we did level off. We are leveling off a lot of the playing field. We are making it so that women have entry value into school, work, whatever it happens to be. And while we did that, we kept thinking that men were just okay the way they were, right? They were doing fine and they were going to keep doing fine. And we didn't really have to put any effort into them because, right, they already had the doors open. And what I'm seeing more, I've seen it for the last 30 years, but the more I see students coming into college and I see fewer and fewer men coming into college, is that we left them behind a bit. We forgot to put resources into their development because we thought they already just had it.
Whoa. That is mind-blowing thought. I see where you come in from that perspective.
And so when you get a charismatic guy like this author you were talking about, or the charismatic people who are online and TV who come along and they say, you young man, you should be angry. You should be the dominant. You should be the alpha. We're going to take that back. We're going to, okay, well, that's pretty appealing when you've kind of been disenfranchised quietly, right? I don't think anybody intended to say, hey, we're going to let men just go and not be cared for, right? I don't think that ever happened. I think it just sort of quietly happened by result rather than design.
But also maybe they're just, because I used to be a little gangster when I was a teenager.
Sure. Yeah, you should have some rebellion to you.
I ran around spray painting stuff, getting in fights. I went to juvie a little bit. I was like a little cholo wannabe because I snapped out of it kind of quick and I found myself on another path, and eventually I found myself in the Marine Corps, and then they're like, slap the cholo right.
Yeah.
But I think what I realized, even with the Marine Corps, there's this energy in young men, at least it was for me, and I see it in a lot of the young men that I know, where you just want to, you want a tribe of, everybody wants a tribe, but especially about young men, there's this a energy that needs to come out, and that's why they send them to war. There's this special energy where you will jump on behind a commander It was like, let's go, we're fighting for this purpose. And I feel like that's that same energy that gets hijacked by charismatic people that
I agree.
We were referencing.
And you just used the word purpose. Yeah. And that's, I mean, they need a why. Because if they got a why, they'll figure out the how, right? That's kind of, I steal those things from other authors. But yeah, I mean, I think all, and probably, and I'm sure young women have their own version of that, right? I don't know what it is because I never was one. Now I'm raising a daughter, and maybe that's where the mystery comes along, right? My daughter is a mystery to me at times. You and I were talking about it once before, and I thought I was a hell of a parent by the time I finished raising my son. And then my daughter came along, and I thought, well, this will be easy. And then, no, it's been a mystery to me every day, and she's had to teach me things over and over. So I'm sure they have their version. But I've lived the guy version. And yeah, there's that sense that we need that tribe. You ever read the book called Iron John?
No.
Interesting book. It came out, I don't know, probably in the 70s, 80s, I don't know, something like that. And it's kind of a fairy tale story. And I think it goes way back in history. But it's the story of how men grow and develop and follow things that matter to them. And at some point they got to figure out which of those things don't matter anymore and how they're going to deal with women in their world. Because a lot of times, young men's missions don't involve women in that healthy of a way, right? They're sort of a sideline to what the men are doing, right? They have their path they're following, their tribe they're following, but and at some point,
sometimes love is the death of duty.
Yeah, and sometimes, and that's kind of what this book talks about is how are you going to understand that better going into it? And I remember I had my son read it when he was young. He was probably a late teenager, probably 18, 19, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I remembered when I read it, I didn't read it till I was in my 30s because I'd never heard of it. And I just had this really good counselor who said, read this sometime and tell me if you don't understand men a little better. And so then, and I did. And so then I got my son to read it when he was about 18 or so. And he came away from it going, wow, okay, that's a whole different look than I ever had before.
And it's so remarkable to me that it's just opening up your mind to new ideas. That's the root of it. That's what all these books are.
Yeah.
It's just another person passing an idea. Like that's like the whole synergy of being a human is passing ideas with one another.
Oh, and don't you love it when you find one and as you're reading it, you're going, God, I really needed to know this. Right? As you're reading the book, you go, this is so cool for me to read. I read a book called Ishmael. I taught it 3 semesters ago. And it's a book, it's been out for like 25, 30 years. I'd never heard of it, had no idea about it. Evidently, it was a very popular book. I mean, they're reprinting it 25 years later, right? So it must have been pretty darn big. Never heard of it. And I happened to have, my son he goes, have you ever read this book? I go, no. He goes, you should. And so like me giving him a book.
Goals, your son recommending books to you, that's goals. Good job.
Wonderful. and I read the book and I read it in like 3 days just because it absolutely captured me. And it's, again, a way of thinking about the world that it's not that the author is telling you anything that you'd never thought of before, but he's putting it in a way where it's relevant and important and accessible.
Useful.
And yeah. And man, I just devoured it. Right. And so then that was one of my summer reading books. I always read books in the summer so I can teach them in the fall. Right. And I mean, I immediately put it into my fall rotation and taught a whole section on this book called Ishmael, which I can't tell you anything about because if I do, it'll screw it up for you.
Okay. I'm going to listen to it probably.
But it's a way of looking at our place in the world and what we're going to do with it. And that seems heady, but it's really not. It's really it's more philosophical, right? And to my great satisfaction, my students loved it.
Okay, this isn't a spoiler because it's probably, how big of a book?
Oh, a standard paperback novel. So probably 275 pages, 300 pages, something like that. Yeah.
What's the main principle that they say the purpose of life is then? I'm sure, I know they'll argue it in a good way. So I just want to know the gist.
That we don't go back to nature. That we are nature, right? People will say, "Hey, I'm going to go camping this week. I'd love to get back to nature," and the book talks about it, and through a really spellbinding way of telling it. The main character, the main narrator is it's perfect, and it's not a character you would ever have imagined. And basically says, no, you never got away from nature. You've always been, as humans, you are nature. Your home is nature, right? I mean, it's your version of nature, but you are nature. You're in nature. You live in the world. The world isn't separate from where you live. You don't go back to it. So what are you going to do with it, right? Are you gonna care for it in a way that makes sense, or are you going to keep doing what you're doing?
I'd always tell my friends this idea when they get stuck of like what not liking their job or their favorite parts of jobs, and we're like connecting all the patterns of it all. And it seemed to me like the pattern was interacting with life is the best thing about a job. The moment you get to interact, and the best one is like with the human life, was the most complex and the most communication, that like you get this communication link that is the strongest.
Yeah.
But I think as you evolve, as you get more like an enlightened monk of Asia, if you will, as you get better and better, you start appreciating just the plants, just the bugs, and then I think maybe you like Neo from Matrix, when you finally break everything is when you can appreciate the life that's in the electromagnetic force of everything. A little prison, you're like, wow, life, this is nice.
Yeah, and don't you imagine that that's why movies like The Matrix are so gripping? I mean, granted, it's visually stunning, right? But if it didn't have a message, the special effects wouldn't matter, right? That you'd just go, well, okay, special effects fest, but because of the underlying philosophy in it and the story, it is really easy to internalize The Matrix and say, "Oh, I needed to know that," right? Just like my reading Ishmael. I remember watching The Matrix when it came out in the theater. Had no idea what it was.
Once again,
and again, yeah, and walked out of the theater just spellbound, just thinking, "Oh my God, that is the most necessary movie that anybody's made in ages." And as soon as my son was old enough to watch it, I had him watch it, right? And to this day, it's one of his favorite movies, right? And we both just enjoy it and love it, and so
it deserves it.
We've seen it many times. It's one of those movies you know how when you're movie surfing, channel surfing. Mm-hmm. If I ever happen to come across it, it doesn't matter when it's in.
Yeah, you're like, all right.
I think I'll watch a couple minutes. I want to see this part.
That scene, yeah.
And then, an hour and a half later, I'm still watching the whole thing, because it'll get me every time.
I love the kung fu scene when they fight, and he starts. He's like, "Is that air you're breathing?" He's like, honestly, it reminds me of kind of like a biblical metaphor.
Yeah,
a bit, right?
Oh yeah,
with faith, having faith. Morpheus is like the greatest example of unwavering faith.
Yeah.
And it was true for him. But the action that is required regardless of the faith and the plan. And then the thing about Neo, I always think of like the first verse that's like, with the faith of a mustard seed, you can move a mountain. Uh-huh. And I always relate to like Matrix, like where they're going to jump, like that's impossible. Uh-huh. It's like if you realize you're in the Matrix right now, you can realize that's not even air you're breathing. This isn't even real.
Yeah.
And if you think about it quantum physically, things get a little not real.
Oh yeah, with that, and truly, the more of those kind of things I see in movies or that I read in books, and I like to watch, documentaries, right? And my family, my wife, my daughter, my son understands it, but he's not home. But I'll stay up late and I'll hit like PBS at like 10:30, 11 o'clock, and usually a good documentary hit about then. And I'll watch something on string theory. Well, I don't know anything about string theory. I'm not a physicist. But I'll watch an hour and a half of it, on a documentary, and walk away from it thinking, wow, I needed to know that, even though I don't completely understand it. But it gives me a whole different appreciation for all the things in the world I don't know and that I don't get. And that's on, a molecular level or submolecular, right?
Subatomic.
Yeah. And so...
Particle.
Yeah.
String theory thinks particles are strings of one dimensions.
Yeah.
That run through our universe that lead to branches of just infinite amount of uses doing other stuff that made different choices. But a lot of physicists combat string theory as well. And they think they're running on it a little too hard. I like Terrence. Terrence Howard?
Yeah.
He's been coming out talking about math a lot.
Yes.
Have you seen him talk about it?
I'm not sure how stable he's talking about it, but he loves to talk about it.
Yeah, then it gets to a point where he gets destroyed. I listen to a podcast with him, Joe Rogan, and Eric Weinstein, who's like a super mathematician. Uh-huh. He really made Terrence Howard know he's not a specialist. But he didn't have grounds completely to take out his theory, because what Terrence Howard is saying is like kind of that gravity isn't real, and he thinks it's a draft from the electromagnetic effect.
Oh.
And he draws this because he looks at the flower of life. Do you know what the flower of life little shape? And he put it into 3D mode.
Okay.
So he looked at, instead of just as a 2D map, he instead with circles that you make the flower of life with, he used it with spheres.
Yeah.
And so he had a whole extra spatial dimension to look at it. And all the cracks between the bubbles, he looked at as like this negative space energy, like the ether of sorts. And he started using that as an argument to saying that it's like connections to the electromagnetic force, because it looks like the vortex of how electricity works.
Oh, gotcha.
And that's where he has no grounds to stand on. Eric Weinstein kind of just destroys him there. Like, what makes you say that? You can't just jump to say that. But it's kind of fun, because I also like to think sometimes the things you can't say, because he figured this out in a dream, supposedly.
Okay.
From beings that wanted him to know this math that passed to the world. And I like the romance and the feeling of like, there is a little bit of forces of good that tried to like push, like, I mean, that's literally the whole biblical stories are about visions from people in dreams, a lot of them. Yeah. And you like, so I like to think there's this intuition to human nature, and you can tap into divinity sometimes and grab some magic.
Well, and isn't that how a lot of great theories come about, right? Is somebody just imagines that this thing that nobody really hit upon before might be a thing. And maybe there are gaps in reality and universe that help explain some of the things that we don't explain well, right?
This is perfect. Let me I bought Enzo's first gift, and it's a mathematical gift, and you're going to love this. Let me show it to you once.
Okay, sounds good.
You can enjoy your banana if you like.
Yes. I love the gifts that we give to our infant children, because they take such awareness to buy, right? If it's a special gift, it's not like clothing and things. I mean, those are necessities, but when you actually buy your infant son a gift, there's a real intentionality that comes with it, because you have something in mind about it, right?
Yes, and what I had in mind with this one was kind of to get him understanding science. And this is have you ever heard of Lie groups? They're how you measure symmetries.
Oh no, I didn't know that was the name. I kind of understand that a little, but
this is a 3D art that represents an 8-dimensional geometric 8-dimensional shape, but it has more than that, 242 dimensions of symmetry in physics. And so it theoretically is one of the opponents. It's called the E8 Lie group. And this is theoretically one of the opponents for a unified theory that binds the forces, like the nuclear weak, nuclear strong, all the particle physics that are involved, the electromagnetic force, which holds all that, and then the gravity. This potentially, that shape holds. And isn't this so cool?
That is very cool.
Look at this, like you see cubes in it sometimes. You see there's so many things, and it's just so cool to me. It's like Plato's shadows on his cave.
Oh yeah.
And we're looking at a higher dimensional thing, trying to think that, wow, it's so beautiful, but it's so much more complex than our little brains can even comprehend.
Oh, absolutely. And isn't it funny how the allegory of the cave is something that you carried with you from your education? And it's one of those things that often when students learn it initially, they disregard it as being sort of simplistic and unimportant. And so it's kind of hard to get a lot of students to appreciate the allegory of the cave.
It's just the philosophy, though.
Yeah.
That's why. Because it's like, what is important about it? It's just someone's idea on life. But it isn't until you can relate to it that it matters.
You finally figure out that, we are as simple as Plato knew. And there's such a complexity in the world around us that we walk around in it every day and we don't see most of it. And that's as good an example. And I just love the fact that you pulled that out of your education too. You go, oh yeah, okay, look, this is another one of those things from my full education that involved a liberal arts education, the humanities and social sciences and the hard sciences and math and English and all those things. It's amazing what that balance of education does for you the further you go. Although when you're 18, it's kind of tough to see the value, right?
Yeah, I didn't pay attention at all. This education is all from my own personal interest. I had to get to an adult point where I was like, the ball really started rolling probably from having to read Immortal Irishman, recommended by you, having to read Death of Expertise, having to read these honors books that you assigned to us and actually like talk about it later. And I think that started my ball of reading books gives you ideas. You get, And then there was a particular moment when I used to love martial arts all the time. And I remember there'd be guys that felt like they were better than me finally. And I was like, not that I'm a professional fighter, but I always have this like, I'm a Marine, I got this like ego about me. I'm like, oh, I'll fight anybody. Let's go. So I'm always at the boxing gym going. And I realized I was like, I busted this bicep tendon, broke it on it, throwing a hook. And I was like, crap. I had a really important documentary shoot coming up, one of the biggest ones that I've ever shot on. And I was like, I'm 1 month away. I have a torn bicep tendon, but I got on this really special regime using some peptides and I recovered really fast. But anyways, that put the thought in my mind, like, dang, I'm not going to be like, I can't rely on my physical, like, dominance or something to get me anywhere in life. I'm going to get old. I'm going to get weak. And I'm going to pass on the strength to the younger guys. And I'm like, what is going to get you far in life? What makes us get far in life, and especially in society, as a civilized society, is what's up here.
Oh, yeah.
You got to know things. You got to just actually be a little intelligent. And what got me feeling secure about that was reading a lot. I just started reading. And I actually listened to this podcast with Werner Herzog. I love Werner Herzog. He's such an intelligent mind. I love to hear how he thinks. And he got asked by, it was Eric Weinstein, the mathematician guy. He asked him, what are 2 books you like recommend to like young men or someone to read? And he goes, his answer, which I loved, was, I don't want to tell you 2 books because you're going to read 2 books and go, oh, I did it. I know everything now. He's like, you shouldn't read 2 books. You should read 2,000 books. And I was like, that is it, because it's not just, that's the easy button. What supplement should I take to get ripped?
Right.
It's not that. It's the consistency of learning that gives you more perspectives. And that's what gives you the wisdom. Do you agree with that? You
are sounding like a young man who came through an honors program and paid attention to what was going on in the class. Yeah. I mean, honestly, that's the foundations of the honors program as I teach it is exactly that. And that is that a lot of times when you're 18, 19 years old, you don't know those things yet, right? I mean, you're 31 and you're fully engulfed in it now. But at 18, you weren't. But you had a few things that began to get you there, and probably when you were younger too. But I agree with you. I think there's a sense that, at least to me, that you have to understand the importance of why would I want to read a book in the first place about something that maybe I don't think I care about. Right? Because, I mean, think about some of the books you've read. I mean, I don't know about you, but I read books regularly that I don't know why I read them. I just picked them up. I didn't know anything about them. I just went, that might be interesting to me. And so then I ended up reading the book and ended up enjoying it, and I learned a lot from it. Or I talk to a friend like you, or I talk to my son, or I talk to my wife, and they say, hey, have you read this yet? And then that leads me another direction. So, but when I take, 18, 19-year-old students in, well, they don't have that sense of things for the most part yet. They're in college, so they got some curiosities, but
they're busy about homework, and they're socialized being impeded by this homework.
Absolutely. Yes. The night before the reading is due, they're hammering away on it. But then they get to class, and they don't write papers in my class. They have discussions. And that's where the light usually comes on, is they get to hear somebody else discuss their take on the same thing they read. And you got 3 or 4 people in the small group that are all having that same conversation. And then you realize that, wow, they took something completely different out of that than I took. And yet they were interested to hear what I had to say about it and what I got from it. And then, so yeah, it feeds in exactly what you were talking about, the head and the learning being a big, big part of it. And I think the heart has to come in there somewhere too, right? I'm also
interest.
I'm a counselor, right? So the heart has to be part of things, I think. And I think that sometimes
but
that's what gets you to read.
Real quick, what is heart?
What is heart?
Because it's not your actual organ, heart.
No,
there's no neurotransmitters or thoughts happening from your heart. What do you mean by heart?
I think it's the concept that things matter to us beyond just the academic, right? There's the emotional, and there's that. It's the feeling you get when you look at your son that you can't quite explain, because he's another human being in the world. Why would he matter any more than any other? And, academically, you could say, well, he is just another one of the 8 billion people on the planet. But there's a sense of heart there that goes way deeper, that you say, no, this is part of me. This is part of who I am. This is part of my wife. This is part of my world, my understanding, and this is a continuation into the future, and this is potential all wrapped up in a little 8-pound package, right? And so I think heart is all of those things that can get you to attach to things that are maybe worth learning even, right? Or sometimes the learning teaches you the heart. I'm not sure I don't think that's a one-way street, right?
It might be a yin-yang thing.
Yeah, I think so.
They dance around each other.
I think you have to have them both. And I think if either one of them gets a little too out of whack, I think if you get too academic, you become a little sterile. And I think if you become a little too emotional, then you become unfocused.
Irrational.
Yeah, unfocused enough to be able to get anywhere.
I'm a boy, so I like to call it irrationality.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yes. You're not being logical. Let's bring the emotions down. Let's just be logical.
Yeah, and there's that balance, right?
Of course.
And so it's wonderful to have that. And so I do. I think that's why some of the books that I assign really register with some people more than with others. You mentioned The Death of Expertise. Very academic book, right? Mm-hmm. But it touched an emotional place on a lot of people in our class that read it because they were frustrated by what he was saying, right? He was saying, hey, listen, people are moving towards irrationality to make sense of their world. They're relying on magical thinking rather than experts who have studied this stuff for 35 or 40 years and then listening to what those people have to say. Instead, they're saying, well, I did look up something on the internet once, and I think I'm going to go this way instead. And so it's funny how that frustrated some of the students in your class, the group we had. They didn't like the notion that disbelieving experts was kind of an irrational way to move forward.
I still have beef with that, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. My viewpoint on it is I agreed. I was up and down on it, actually, over the years.
Good. That's what you're supposed to be.
Exactly. But the thing is that the experts they can't be, it's not that you're right because you're an expert. You're right because you can display more data than the others even knew about.
Yeah.
And you have to be the experts they need to be better about getting their data to the public, and so they can understand it.
Yeah, isn't that where we're failing right now?
Yeah, like that's what it feels like today is the big problem, because it's like you don't want a totalitarian rule over information where no one can talk about things, only experts. But at the same time, it really just comes down to the best. You got to let the debate flow freely in a republic where people debate ideas.
I agree.
And to listen to an expert, you should have to have an expert who's willing to make it understandable for the people to understand why they're saying it.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes that'll work and sometimes won't. But unfortunately, a lot of times experts tend to be overly academic, and they've kind of lost the soul of it, right? The heart of it. And so they have a tough time making it relatable to somebody who hasn't spent 30 or 40 years working on it. And granted, I realize that there's always going to be a little bit of a disconnect there, but yeah, I agree with you. I think sometimes the experts are their own worst enemies because they don't connect well. But it's also the reason why things like Mythbusters is so much fun to have on TV, because they take all of these physics, ideas and theories, and they go, okay, is this a real thing or not? And then they test it out right in front of you, right? And you get to watch them blow up stuff, which I love. And in the meantime, though, you're also learning something that they took 30 or 40 years to learn. And it usually proves something valuable. So it just goes to show you, if you can put it together in the right package, people will watch, people will listen, people will learn.
Yeah, that's why your delivery matters. That's the Greeks actually thought how you say it matters more than what you say, because then people actually listen to it if you're saying it well.
Yeah,
that's why characters like Carl Sagan are so awesome for our world. I was on a Carl Sagan kick on books a couple of years ago, and I just fell in love with that guy. I love his mind. I love his skepticism and his approach to just being the skepticism tool that he delivered in one of his books, A Demon Haunted World. It helped me so much because skepticism is really just the arbiter of the scientific method.
Yeah.
Prove it through repetition. But you know what? Something about the scientific method that I can never touch is my hunch towards thinking that there's a measurable intuition in this universe.
Yeah, and I won't disagree with you. And again, that's the heart part of me, right? That's the counselor part of me that goes, there are some things that I don't know that you can quantify, right? They almost have to be felt, not
calculated.
Calculated, yeah, good word for it, yeah. Yeah, I won't disagree with you a bit. And often when I'm sitting with a client and, I can listen to the facts of the story 100 times and they would probably lead me one direction, right? But if I'm listening to what you just mentioned, the way the story's told, usually there are things in there where I go, oh, okay, no, there's a whole other emotional aspect of the story they're telling me, right? They may be mad at their parents for something that happened when they were being raised that they felt was unfair. But the more you listen, the more a lot of times I'll hear that there's a disappointment in themselves with the way they're doing things now. And there's that disconnect between what my parents taught me and what I'm doing now with it. Am I advancing? Am I doing better than the things that I didn't like that my parents did, right? And so I agree with you. I think intuition, for lack of a better word, I'm sure there's probably a better word out there, but I think it matters. And I think we're going to get the messages. It's wonderful when we can hear the messages that are between the lines, right? Yeah.
I think intuition is the right word to me because I think of it like, I used to play blackjack a lot over at Jackpot, and I was a card counter big time because they only had single deck. I'm talking about it now because those days are over.
Yes.
Because they changed it. I would still be there, but they don't do single deck cards anymore. They stopped that ability. So my counting card days are over. But I always think about, because I'm getting my MBA and we're like talking about investments and all this, and trying to be a financial analyst is literally just trying to be the best card counter you can be.
Yes.
And you're like, I think the odds are really good. Put a bunch right here.
Yeah.
The odds are going to be good. I counted it. But you don't know. There's still risk always. And so I always relate investing with my blackjack play, and this with intuition in connection to blackjack. It's like I have the calculation. The odds are really good. I shouldn't even hit. I shouldn't hit at all.
Right.
It's a bad chance. All the strategy saying no. And then I go, but I have a feeling about that card, and it works. You get 21, and intuition. I'm amazing. But then on the other hand, you bust. Everyone's like, this guy's stupid.
Yeah, and you remember all the times that you hit when you had the intuition and it worked, and you'd kind of disregard all the times when it didn't work, right? Wouldn't you like to see the math on that? How many times did I do it, and how many times did it work for me? How many times did it not? But I don't know. Wouldn't that take away the fun of it?
That's exactly it. Yeah. That's why I have to preface with, I instinctively, it's a bias. I think this belief in intuition, I'm aware that it's possibly a bias.
Sure.
But man, life is beautiful with this feeling of like, it gets complicated because if I feel like sometimes there's forces for good, so there's got to be forces for bad, or forces for bad, so maybe there's forces for good. But at the same time, I'm like, maybe it's just all chaos when I think of it chemistry-wise, like entropy, like a steam engine should be perfect, theoretically. But unfortunately, friction radiates out and then makes the heat disperses and eventually your fuel runs out. And you don't have this infinite source of just good, just like how the sun gives us energy and we're radiating the same amount of the sun energy back out into the universe. It's like the entropy of life. I feel like we're living in this entropy moment, and our goal as these conscious beings is we can reduce the entropy and refine this energy back. But I don't know if that's the purpose, but it sure feels like a good one to go to, trying to bring order to this universe of chaos.
Yeah, okay, I'd buy that. Yeah, because entropy is entropy, right? It's just the natural state of decay of everything around you, or every system around you, right? Okay. I mean, you can certainly batten down the hatches, right? You can pull the weeds out of your yard. You can scrape the paint and repaint your house. But I mean, it's still going to happen, but you can slow the process, right? You can limit the damage to the things you want to keep. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. That's why I was trying to convince my brother about cleaning. Cleaning is your purpose in this universe, to go against entropy. Slow down the route to chaos and bring a little order where you can.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, there's a house that I walk by. I go out and walk. I see you walking by, or I see you running, and I'm walking. And there's a house that I've walked past for. I'll bet I've walked by it for 20 years, and it has just been in a complete slow state. It has been the definition of entropy, unimpeded. Right?
Oh yeah.
And it's to the point now where a section of the roof is starting to fall in. And I don't know how much longer it's going to last. And the curtains that were in the window that originally were solid are now kind of shredded from the sun's heat and, the years. And the yard is not a yard anymore. It's just sort of whatever is going to grow in this heat. And it's one of those things where I go, oh, okay. So if I don't mow my lawn, if I don't take care of my house, I have a good, an actual visual of what it's going to look like if I don't fight the battle, right? I mean, our physical bodies, same thing, right? Oh, by the way,
exactly.
When you get double your age, which I am, you get all these weird firsts that start happening, right? And I think it's part of the reason that the older people, they always talk about their health. Right? Have you ever been around older people very much? And they always talk about the latest medical thing that's not.
Oh, is that what it's?
Oh my God!
How your circles are running these days?
Oh God, yeah. And it's just the funniest thing because I think, oh my God, is this all we have left to talk about? But I was thinking about it one day, and I thought, well, I know the reason why. At least I think I have a suspicion why, and that is that when you get to be about my age, you have all these weird firsts. Your body always held up before, and you might have something like you had, where you tore your bicep, but there was you were doing something physical. I mean, that was a natural, and then it healed quickly. Mm-hmm. But the weird stuff happens about my age is you start having these weird things, a kidney will malfunction or your heart will malfunction or your thyroid will malfunction. And it's the first time it ever happened. And it makes no sense whatsoever. And so you're trying to make sense of why is this going on? And so you talk to people who are about your age to see if they've had it happen. And then you go, okay, so what'd you learn from this, right? So what was your situation like? Mm-hmm. And so I'm trying to get better about when I get together with friends. I'm trying to get better about not talking about the latest trip to the doctor or the hospital, because I realize that it's entropy, right? I mean, it's my body's a system, and there are certain aspects of it that they've broken down, and I got to do the best I can to keep them up. So. You see me out walking in the meantime.
But this universe is kind of like a pool of water, and the energy just is motion. You jump in it, it doesn't spill out somewhere. Uh-huh. It's just shifting around everywhere.
Yeah.
And for me, the concept of this is what always blows my mind. My mother-in-law is the type of person that thinks it just goes black after this. There's nothing. Nothing. Gotcha. And to me, that's like the lack of learning, the lack of that's just the easy little answer. If you learn a lot, you're going to get a lot more excited. Trust me. The more you go into science, I can get religion. It's subjective a lot of times who you're going to believe, but scientifically, as you go down, it gets more beautiful and more amazing. And even I just finished one of Stephen Hawking's book, A Moment in Time, I think.
Oh yeah. I read that a long time ago.
Yeah, it was so good, and I loved it because he even talks about like meeting the Pope, and like I didn't know he was born 300 years later after the day Galileo died.
I didn't know that either.
So he has this like feeling of being his reincarnate, and so he like talks about when he's at the Pope, he's like, he didn't want to face a similar, problem or something. Because he was like, as long as you don't mess with what's beyond after space time, then like you're not going to be in trouble with the church's eyes. And he's like, well, good thing you didn't read my last publication, because I was like tackling those exact concepts. But I think Stephen Hawking even has this reverence for the beginning, it's because the whole thing is a reverence journey. People like to dismiss science as like not being like a spiritual thing, but it's like it's literally just being so like awed by what you see around you that you decide to observe it to such detail that you make observable notes that lock in as a fact.
Yeah.
Like, look, this is what we know. I've been watching. I've been studying. It's not that you're just like throwing out crazy theories, but it's like the best connection with the amazing. It's just observation. Science is just observation.
Well, yeah. So, observation, repetition, right?
Yeah, observation and repetition. That's what makes things like actually provable. Like, whoa, look at this. It did it again. It did it again. And just going down to the root of the beginning of time, it's like, I feel like he has this reverence for it where that you can't, there was a moment where action happened. And of course, there had to be the action giver of sorts. He doesn't really say that he believes in God, but he I feel like he plays around with it just enough where I feel like he kind of does. Yeah, he talks about it.
He's like you said, he's amazed by the fact that something had to be there, and we don't know what it was. It's as mysterious to us as any other great mystery in the universe, right? And whether that's religion or whether that's, I don't know, science, or whether they're both together, I don't know. I'm not sure there was a difference.
So for the people who think he goes black, like my punica, that's how you say mother-in-law in Bosnian. I think, oh my gosh, hold on. Sometimes these shows get hard to follow.
Do you think it's a comfort? A comfort that there is an end. Because I can understand that. And again, having read some things like that, I get where a person can look at that and say, no, man, I've run a hard race. I've run a long race. I've done everything I could possibly do. And at some point, I will be glad to have it over and have a rest and have it go blank, right? That'll be okay.
If it is like that, it's not painful. It's rest. Let's rest. But the thing about nothing, the concept of nothing is just a weird one. Especially because here we are being something. The idea that nothing even exists, it's like, if to the beginning, who made God? And then who made that guy? And who made that? Who made that? Who made that? Where'd that first energy come from? Before the first chemical reaction? It should, if you want to be so logical, it should absolutely be nothing. I agree. Completely nothing. But unfortunately, for your theory, something happened and something is going on.
Right.
Here we are. And that makes me feel hopeful. Like, wow, something shouldn't have happened. There should be nothing. Clearly there's something.
And that's the reason why I watch documentaries at 11:30 at night while the girls are asleep, right? Because it's the same thing. I have the same wonder. And I think most people do in whatever way, right? I guess they approach it in whatever way they can. Oh, maybe this is where the emotion comes in, right? There's a sense that it's got to be something I can be okay with. And I guess you find whatever that is. And in your case, you don't care what it is. You just want to know. You would like to know whatever that answer is. You want to know it.
I don't really want to know anymore because I think that's where you become a slave. I think not knowing is the freedom of free will. Okay. I think not knowing is the ability to screw up, and that's why I started this off. I just like to have fun. Let's just have a good time. I want to spread positive. But my favorite emotions are the positive ones. So I'm trying to make more of those because I know when I have negative emotions, I usually bring a lot more negative ones back to me.
Yeah.
And I don't like that world. So I'm trying to enjoy this short life I have, surrounding it with a big positive bubble and where I can just party and have fun all the way out.
Well, you're certainly expanding your bubble nicely. You've got a little Enzo, oh my word. And, and his mom, I mean, oh my word, you two are just cute as you can be together. And, there's a lot of happiness that comes out of that, right? And then you got Bosco, who's sleeping on my foot and who's just about as sweet as he can be. And I just love that, right? I mean, my love for dogs is just, I don't know, it's not exceeded by too many things, right? I mean, there's my love for my kids and my wife and families and things, but dogs are just kind of their own unique wonders of the world. I just can't help but
they're sentient, they're alive, they're emotional as well, and they are there for you.
They're
there for you.
And we're there for them. And honestly, I can't think of anything more fun than coming home at the end of whether it's been 5 minutes or 5 hours, right? You come home and gosh, little Marco's our littlest one. He is so thrilled that we're all together. Right. You could just tell that is his sole happiness in the world is we all get to be together in our place. And I just adore that about dogs. I don't know. I feel very happy being around them, and they just, I don't know, the sense of the things they do and the way they are. And I don't know. And I get to love them as much as I want to, I get to say stupid things to them and kiss them on the head and,
The more love, the better.
Yeah.
The more love, the better.
They don't care.
Let's be more like dogs.
Yeah. Yeah. Truly. Yeah. Yeah. I have a shirt that even says, be the person your dog thinks you are. And so, oh my gosh. And I try to remember that. I don't always achieve it, right? I mean, I fail on those things too, but I try because our little dogs are that way. We also have a little Bella, and she's a little min pin Chihuahua cross. And she was a dog that my wife and daughter rescued. And again, she's sweet and wonderful in her own way. She's this little quiet homebody. Like Marco loves to go. If you go in the car, Marco jumps in. If you say the word go, he's up on the back of the couch because he's going to jump in your arms.
He's ready to go.
But Bella, she hears go, and she goes and she'll crawl under the couch until you leave. And then she crawls back out into her chair where she gets to just be home and be her homebody. She loves her backyard. She takes good care. She guards it against squirrels, right? And I can't think of too many things I enjoy more than just sitting back and watching those two wrestle around in the backyard and chase squirrels. And I don't know, it makes me very happy. So
yeah, same for me. Like I was telling you when we were talking, I was like, I just like to look at them and be happy. Mm-hmm. And maybe is that how you feel about your kids?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. My kids are funny too. They are both uniquely wonderful. And I think that was one of the greatest things that my daughter taught me was that kids aren't just kids. Like I say, because I raised my son, and it's funny. I knew I loved my son before he was born. It was very funny. I didn't have to think about that. I just knew, and I can't tell you how I knew or why I knew. I just did. And then when he was born, it was very easy to instantly be engaged with him. There was just nothing I would rather do than, hold him, feed him, change him. Show him things, whatever it happened to be. And then that never faded. He's 31 now. And I still love that. I still love to hug him, and I still love to kiss him on the head, and I still love to go to a movie with him or a concert. We're going to go to Pink Floyd together. It's actually Brit Floyd, but they're a Pink Floyd
cover bands.
Yeah, but they're amazingly good. Oh
really?
Yeah, pull them up online. But it's Brit Floyd, and they're terrific.
All
and they're going to be in Boise on Sunday, and so we're going to go up to the Egyptian. And it's so funny because my wife and my daughter, my son and my daughter-in-law are all going to be there, and it's really my son and I that are the big fans, but the others are going to go to humorous. So.
Did you see that planetarium?
Yeah.
Did you see that one that they did, the Dark Side of the Moon?
Yeah,
that was awesome, right?
Wonderful, yeah. And it's so funny.
Album.
I mean, I'm still that same kid that at 16 was awed by, although Dark Side of the Moon, I remember that from third grade because they used the music from Time for the what was it, Saturday Creature feature on the local TV channel. They used to have old scary movies, and and Time was the music they used to where the bells ring and and it ting tick tick, right, and that was the music they used as a theme song for that show that was on local TV. And so that's what I remember first from Pink Floyd, and then just got to be a fan over the years. But
people connected with Wizard of Oz all the time. You've seen that?
Oh yeah.
Like,
I've watched
Dark Side of the Moon is perfectly in line with Wizard of Oz.
And I finally watched it online where somebody had already connected it to.
They'd already
synced it, and I thought, okay, you got to reach a little bit. But if I were 19 and high, I would probably be going, this is amazing at how perfect this is.
Perfection.
But in my 60s, I look at it, I kind of go, no, that was somebody who's reaching a little bit. But what a lot of fun it is to do it, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, anyway, but we're all going to do that, and again, that's something I get to do with my son and my daughter and my wife and my daughter-in-law, and so having the kids together. It never gets old for me. It's never gotten old for me. And there's never been an age, you and I talked about it once, there's never been an age where I've thought, oh, this is a terrible age. I can't wait for this to get over. It just never happened. There are some that I understand better than others, but I love the twos, man. Everybody warned me, and
I'm already getting warnings all the time still just for the coming months.
Oh yeah. I honestly ignore every bit of that. The more interactive they get, the more things they do, the more fun they are. And you're going to watch them use things in ways that are appropriate and inappropriate, whether it's language or body movements or things that they get a hold of. They're going to try them out everywhere they think they can because they got to figure out where it works.
And it's the sense of control that bothers you for the people.
I think maybe it does. Yeah. They don't like a kid to say no to them.
Yeah.
And I still am. I'm still fascinated when kids get to be about 2 and they learn the word no, because they will use it for everything. I think I even told you the way I cured my kids from it was I said, would you, let's go take a bath? No. Let's go, outside. No. Oh, let's have a cookie. And they'd say no. And I'd say, oh, okay, well, no cookie then. And, of course, then there's the panic. And then they realize that no didn't work there. Right. And so, I mean, how fun is it that you get to watch this little person that you helped create try out and execute these complex ideas in ways that they don't know when it's going to work, but when they do see it work, man, the light goes on.
Just you know what I think for me, like talking about, I feel like I've reached a point in my understanding of science to the point where I'm like, I got a pretty good gist of like what this universe is made up of, and I read a lot. I mean, if you can see there, that's all my religious texts. I read a lot of religious texts, and I got to this point where I have a really good grounding of what I believe and how I want to keep moving forward through life at this point. And now I think, not that there's the room for learning has ended. Oh no. But it's just like for fun and more like exciting and engaging learning rather than like necessary. You know what I mean? Like I gotta figure life out. What learning?
It's going to be enrichment.
Yeah, enrichment. Yes, beautiful word. And I feel like having my son now is just adding to the enrichment because now I get to teach him and I get to see the excitement. Like it's not both are enriching learning, but you know what I'm trying to get to.
I know exactly what you mean. Yeah. And what's funny is the more you engage with him, the more you're going to understand about how thinking and learning and engaging works. And so you're going to learn a ton while you're teaching him things because you're going to let him do some things wrong because he's got to learn that some things, you try it this way and, that doesn't work. And then you let him try it right. And he sees, it does work that way. So he'll understand that there's that interaction there that's so important, right? Learning that failing at something doesn't mean that you don't get to keep going. It means that, you keep working on it till you find a version that does work pretty well. And for me, that's half the fun, right? I mean, I got a daughter who's just starting college and, she learned that the last year was her first year. And she learned a lot about college. She came out of high school, I think with a sense of what college was going to be like. But the only real knowledge she had of that was high school. And, high school was okay for what it was. And, but she got to college and after a year she went, it was very clear she understood that, there are things I did in high school that don't work at all well in college. And so she had changed those over the course of the year and she figured out which things worked better. So she's still doing that, right? She's still doing the same things she did when she was little and so did my son. But it's fun for me to watch that. It was a highlight of my year. And I got to have her in class one semester. Which was a ball, right? I mean, you never know what it's going to be like to have a kid in class. And I got to sit in my dad's class years ago, back in 1988. Nice. I got to sit in my dad's law enforcement class and be one of his students. Yeah. And I remember how wonderful it was to be the kid in that scenario. And I didn't know what my dad ever thought of it. I think he liked it, but I wasn't, you're never sure.
Was he a stoic figure?
I mean, he was the John Wayne era man's man, right? You don't show a lot of emotion. You don't. You take care of business. You take care of your family. You do those kind of things, right? Not say that he wasn't complimentary when you earned it, but
different kind of balance.
But a little tough to read on emotional things until he got older, and then it got a whole lot better. But me getting to be the professor for my daughter's class. I got to do it with my son too earlier, but with my daughter's class, it was different. It was more of that experience. And I really got to understand what my dad's end of it was. And so not only did I enjoy the experience with my daughter, but I got to, it helped me connect even better to my dad who's passed away now, but it helped me understand our relationship a little bit better. So isn't that funny, right? One relationship experience with my daughter helped clarify a relationship experience with my dad. And so you got all that coming, right? And it just never quits happening. It never grows old. And I'm very thankful for that. I just love it.
I think of it like as I always preface with this, because I talk to my brother a lot. I was telling my brother, because I'm always trying to explain to him my experiences so he can learn from my experiences too, because I get excited about that. And I'm like, I think having my son is making me see and understand myself better from my own developmental perspective. And it's because, like, how babies are. Like, you could say, yeah, I get how we are developed, but you never get to be so close to one. Right. Until you have yours.
Yeah.
And then you're there and you're witnessing all of it. And then you get you become more of an expert a little bit on human development, and you can apply that to yourself because you're sitting here observing it every day.
Oh, absolutely.
You're in part of the journey, and you go, dang. Like for me, my dad was never involved in my picture. So I even learned more about like the perspective of I don't know how we are wired so different. He's slower kind of guy. Not actually slower, but just that's my crap talk.
You're allowed a little of that.
Yeah, a little bit of crap talk. But I just can't understand sometimes the way he thinks. Like, I don't think the same way. I'm way more, I guess, like I don't know, honorable, but I want to be there with my son. You know what I mean? For some reason, it's not hard to want that. It's like it just comes straight in. And I feel like going through this journey gives me these new perspectives, because I'm like having this own case study point blank that's just enriching my knowledge now.
Oh yeah. I mean, how would it not? Right. And especially where you're experiencing this kind of relationship for the first time. Right. I mean, the father-son thing, right? You had your own version, but you didn't have this version.
Yeah. No, it blows my mind. Sometimes I look at pictures, I'm like, he's going to grow up with his dad? What? It like trips me out, like, because it's so uncanny for me.
Oh yeah.
That I'm like, whoa, this is like, whoa, he's going to have a whole different experience. This is like pretty cool.
Yeah. And the intentionality of it's amazing, because you are intentionally going to do it in a way that suits you better and that is completely different. And that's, I think about my folks, and I grew up in an era where, we were kind of free range, right? And it's so funny. I mean, this just kills me to say it, but I'm the last year of the boomers, right? 64 was the last year of the boomer generation, but I have a lot more in common with Gen X, just because that were around me more. But
what's the difference between the two generations?
That's, you mean it from my perspective?
Yeah, from your perspective.
The boomer generation tended to be, I equate it to the World War II generation, right? That we are all heavily interconnected through the experience of World War II. I think it colored everything that happened in and around it. And so, 46 to 64 were the 1946 to 1964 was the birth years for the baby boom. Mm-hmm. And so those of us who were born in that are the boomers. And so we grew up with the World War II greatest generation, people being our parents. And we also grew up with the economic boom that came with all of that, and the more is better mentality. The world is our oyster, and look at all the pearls, and let's build
the moon. Let's see how to
exactly, and let's build a bigger house, and let's have more cars, and let's have bigger furniture, and we grew up with that. And I think a lot of boomers push back against that. I think that's why you wound up with the hippie generation as part of the boomers, right? I think the idea that more is better, and work yourself until you're dead at 50 because you were working so much that your career mattered, your family didn't. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of being a boomer had to do with having fathers that weren't around a lot. They weren't bad. They weren't bad fathers, but in their era, their job was have the career, bring home the money, and then really, disengage once you were home. Right? I mean, you
secondary mission.
Yeah, I mean, you were going to rest when you got home. That's really what that was. You weren't there.
It was resting you for your primary mission, which is get back to work.
Which is get back to work. Exactly right. And we had moms who managed households to a large degree, and they were brilliant managers. But they were a little worn out themselves, and they had us around a lot more. So I think we kind of tended to push back against the more is better. I think that's a boomer hallmark. Yeah. And I think the Xers have some of that influence, but I think they just got ignored, frankly.
As the middle child.
I think Gen X was just the ignored generation to a large degree, because they weren't World War II and they weren't hippies. Yeah. They were just sort of this group that was trying to figure it out on their own with no major war to fight of their own to define them. And so I think get a lot of that, right? So I get that piece of it, but I also get the boomer piece of it. And it's just, I don't know. It's, being the last of the boomers is just sort of this thing. It's mortifying to me to be, okay, boomer, right? I to be that guy, but I really fight hard to not be that guy. And I've really, as a father, I'm very different than my father was. My father was a very good provider and he was a very good man. But I didn't see him much. I just didn't. He was either at work or he was at a volunteer project. He was on all the Elks Club and the Rotary Club and the Peace Officers Association. So, he'd go to work at 6 a.m. before I got up, and then he'd get home like 10 o'clock at night after I was already in bed. So I didn't see my dad that much when I was young, except for judo. And so Tuesdays and Thursdays we'd get to go play with judo, right? But even then he was the coach, he was sensei. Yeah. And so, he was sort of out of reach for me there. And so it wasn't until I was in my 30s that my dad and I really developed a good relationship. Prior to that, we were father, son in the old school version. So when I had, the whole point of this story, right? I ramble on.
I love it.
The whole point of this is once I got to be old enough to have kids, and so I had my son, and then the same way with my daughter, I, like you, had a very intentional mindset that said, I am going to be part of their lives. We're going to play. We're going to run around. I'm going to coach their little league teams if they want to play them. We're going to play board games. I can't tell you how many times I've been dressed up as a princess when my daughter was 3 and 4 years old and she had the princess game. And you have to spin a little spinner. And then whatever you land on, you have to put that piece of jewelry on. So we'd have, my wife, my son, my daughter, and me all around this board, and we'd all have tiaras on and earrings on, necklaces, because that was a game she loved, right? But it was intentional in my mind that no, I was not going to miss out on those opportunities. I saw such enormous value in them because I could remember the few times that I had with my dad and how big they were. They still stick in my head. I can tell you, when I think about them, I can see the colors in the memories. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Some memories are just kind of gray. These are very vivid because my dad was actively a part of what was going on, and that made a difference to me. And so like you, I wasn't going to let that happen. And so I feel like I've been far more involved than my dad was, but my dad was involved in his way. So I don't fault him for it, right? Yeah. I don't say, oh, he's a bad dad. He was a dad in the way that those World War II guys were dads.
Yeah. To make different types of people, you got to be raised by different types of people.
Yeah.
And I think I remember in your class once you told us about, you gave us a little lecture about how you used to not want to cry.
Oh yeah.
You used to never want to cry. And then one day you realized that it was okay. I don't remember the specifics too well, but the gist of the lesson was that you became comfortable with showing emotion.
Oh yeah.
It was something that you had to overcome. And I always thought about that because I was totally cold-blooded, yeah. Marine daddy issue, Marine boy trying to just be tough in this world. And even to this day, but after having my babies, I'll be watching a movie. I'll be on the jog listening to "Circle of Life" by Lion King, choking up, thinking about life and its beauty, and I'm just full of emotion. And I'm down to feel the emotion, but a part of me, the stoic Marine in me, wants to be a pillar that doesn't crack. Where do you find the balance for teaching your son with the balance of emotion versus being a pillar? And also, I think with the idea of showing emotion, your dad sounds hardcore, but sometimes those hardcore dads, you like to fantasize that they made you really strong, because they were really strong, and then they kind of forced you to become this tough guy, even though maybe it's not unhealthy, and it's unhealthy in the outcome of how you treat others. That was a little my thing. I was so cold-blooded and strong that I was kind of cold up people.
Sure.
And trying to find that balance is hard. So how do you find that balance of emotion and strength and pass that to your son?
Trial and error. Truly, because not having had it modeled for me, I had to bumble my way through understanding what healthy emotion was. until I finally got a pretty good grasp on it, right? But when I was young, and I'm sure I told you guys this in class, because I can remember that conversation, really men weren't allowed, men in my generation, because again, I was kind of that end of the boomers, right? We weren't allowed emotions outside of anger, and maybe happiness, but pretty limited, a pretty limited version. But we really weren't allowed anything else because in the family, John Wayne didn't have those things, right? He'd occasionally laugh about something, but otherwise he was tough and he was rough and he took care of business and he was honorable and he was all those good things. But, there's no movies where John Wayne's sitting and mourning the loss of, his dog, right? And so growing up, and I was a pretty emotional kid. So this was harder for me, I think, because in my family, we were a rough, tough judo, wrestling, motorcycles kind of family. And my dad was a World War II guy, so that was the life he lived. And so it wasn't luckily I had a grandma, my Nana Jeannie, and she was that one person who I was okay however I was. So if I was at her house and something came up that was emotional, it was fine. I was okay over there. So I got a little peek into that world, and I knew that being genuinely emotional was a good thing for me. But it wasn't until I was really in my 30s, and I just gone through a divorce, and I was in counseling. And I had the greatest counselor. Oh, this guy was so good. He understood men so well. And he kind of helped me start to be genuine about recognizing my emotions. Because one thing I found was anger was my cure for everything, right? So I had a temper. But, anytime I would be frustrated, it would go to anger. If I was scared, it would go to anger. If I was sad, it would go to anger because anger could, that was acceptable and I could do that. And so he began to teach me to look at what I felt first, right? He told me, he said, anger is always a secondary emotion. What did you feel first? And God, that probably took 2 years to figure that out, what he meant. And then now I see it pretty well, right? My daughter's climbing a tree. She slips. She almost falls. I'm scared. And then I get mad and say, go get out of that tree, right? Okay, well, I'm not mad. I was scared. But mad is how I handled it. And I've steadily had to get better at handling that differently, where I recognize the genuine emotion, not the cover emotion of anger, right? And so it took a long time to get that to be okay and to be glad that I have a broad range of emotions, right? I do get sad. I do get scared. I do get emotionally wrung out from loss. I get emotionally joyous from happy things. Like you were mentioning, I remember when I think my daughter was little. I think she was just a baby, and I was watching a Sprite commercial, and there was a dad who somehow he had his daughter, I think, walking down the aisle, and something happened, and it was sweet. And I remember, tears starting to come out and thinking, am I seriously crying over a Sprite commercial? And I thought, oh, I guess I'm touched by the notion of being a good dad and being a loving dad, and what a nice thing that is. So it went from being embarrassment to being proud of the fact that I could do that, right? And that I could be emotionally caring. And so my dad, I can tell you this. I hugged my dad when I was a little kid, because this goes back to your question. As a little kid, I could remember hugging him on purpose twice. And I could still tell you the stories about why it happened, but it was so wonderful. And those memories were so clear to me, but that just wasn't a thing he did, right? He just wasn't the huggy dad. So fast forward to I'm in my 30s and I'm going through counseling. I'm figuring out how to be emotional. And so I would go home to see my folks, and I had my son by that point, and I was determined that he wasn't going to grow up being stifled, right? So my counselor said, hey, why don't we work on your relationship with your dad? I go, oh, that ain't going to happen. That's good luck. He goes, okay, I'll tell you what you do. Go home, and next time you see him, at some point, hug him. And I went, okay, whatever. And I did. So I went home, and the first time I hugged him, it was the funniest thing. Oh my God, you'd have thought I shot him. He just stiffened up right? And his arms kind of moved, but he didn't hug me back because he wasn't quite sure what to do, and he got embarrassed. And he kind of stepped away, and I said, I love you, Dad. It's good to see you, right? And he kind of stepped away, kind of like I had shocked him. And it was so funny to watch because I was aware of the situation, but he wasn't. So I came back, tell the counselor the story. He goes, oh, that's great. He goes, okay, next time, same thing. And, at least once. And so I kept doing that. Every time I'd come back to Twin Falls, I'd go hug my dad. And I'd tell him that I loved him. And it was very intentional. And I'd look at him. And so he couldn't get away from the uncomfortableness, right? And he began to hug me back in that guy hug. You know the guy hug? You kind of pat each other on the back really hard, tap. Right?
Yeah.
Pat. And then hey, bro.
Or a sideways
hug, yeah. And so he started doing that. I thought, okay, that's progress.
Dipping his toe in the water.
A little bit, yeah. And this went on for, honestly, at least a year or two. And I'd come back and see him and we'd do that. And so eventually he expected it. And it was very cute. And, my dad's big, burly, rugged guy, World War II vet, right? And I would show up at the door and he would welcome me in and he would expect the hug and he would hug me. And that became part of our thing. And I would tell him I loved him every time I saw him. And my mom too, of course, but my mom and I had no problem there. But we did that for, quite some time. And so by the time my son was old enough to kind of recognize it, he can't remember my dad ever not hugging them a lot and telling them how much he loved them and how happy he was that they were his grandkids. And, my son and my daughter both, they never knew my dad the way my dad was. They knew the version of him that got to hug people and tell them that he loved them. So I had to actively work on my own version of it. And then that became what my son saw and dealt with. He could see dad and son, me. And then he and I've hugged my son, since he was born. And so that's never been a foreign thing to him. He knows that I love him, tell him I love him all the time. And my daughter's same way. I don't think she's ever gone a day without hearing that from me or getting a hug or, hanging around. So it really became a way of life. And a wonderful part of my life. I'm so happy I made that change through the ages, right? I mean, my heritage wasn't that way, but I'm glad I changed that.
I think the secret to that, from my still youthful, angry perspective, is as long as you know some martial arts, you can be a teddy bear of love.
It does help a little bit to know that you can fight your way out of trouble if you want to. And so it's a little easier to be a sweetheart when you want to.
What do you got to puff your chest out and be a macho man? Who cares? You literally just, I can throw you. If the bad guy comes, I'll throw him.
Yeah. And I think that was true of my son until these last several years, and he's bigger and stronger than I am now. So, and frankly, my daughter is about my size too. So, as far as height, and I'm not sure she couldn't kick my ass too at this point.
I wonder how much people would respect the idea of God if he wasn't powerful.
I don't know. I'm sure there are some. Well, I know there are some religions where he's all loving, right? I mean, where it is all loving, or
no ability to destroy. No ability to destroy evil on a command?
Not that I can think of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seems like something about masculinity, I feel like, has to be a protector. You have the protection aspect. You have to be able to be willing to at least protect the things you love.
Oh, sure.
I don't know. That's why I didn't like about my favorite book is the Tao Te Ching. I love Taoism thought, but I don't like the idea that you don't fight, very pacifist. You don't fight for the things you love. You kind of let evil roll you over.
Yeah.
I don't like that.
Yeah, that it's just part of the universe.
Yeah, you just be good and you float out and reincarnate or something. You just literally, I like that idea that I'm going to be a warrior for good.
Yeah, and having been raised in an era where that is the socialization, right? The sociology professor in me comes out then. I go, okay, yeah, that's how, you and I were both raised that way, where man as a protector, provider, caretaker, we are the wall between evil in our family, right? And so
the sheepdogs.
Yeah, but it makes, but the sociologist in me looks at that and says, yeah, and if it had been taught differently, we would think differently, right? But if you go back, you go back thousands of years, right? It's you don't find very many cultures where that's the case. There are probably some.
Well, an intruder all of a sudden kicks my door in at night.
Right.
I'm not going to send my I'm big for a reason.
Exactly.
Stay here, honey. I'll go fight and cause violence to protect you because I love you.
Absolutely. And I certainly have grown up that way, and I'm certainly still that way. I still don't like, my son, like I said, he's bigger than me by a long shot, but I still don't like it when somebody mistreats him, right? And I think, well, let's go find him and kick his ass, right? And so, but they frown on that evidently these days. So, but it makes me wonder, and like I said, the sociologist part of me makes me wonder, if we change some of those elements of what it means to be a man or a woman or a father or a mother or we could change that approach, but it would take a pretty big shift in cultural philosophy. And I don't think cultural philosophy shifts that quickly.
It would have to be a shift of calculation and not emotion. Because the emotions are ingrained to us primitively almost.
Unless the emotions that drove it were kindness and love, right? Maybe that would be the driving force. I don't know.
I like that. That is good.
And if you think back, if you go back 100 years, 200 years, 300 years and compare it to now, our role as men has changed. My God, we have so many more opportunities now than we used to, right? As dads, as husbands, we have enormously more opportunity now than my dad or my grandpa had. They had a role that was very fixed. It was very in line, and they did not deviate from it. But now, going to college and being an engaged dad and being a loving spouse or mate, and demonstratively, right? Having a spouse that has a life of their own, and we're happy about it. Right? Yeah. Go to work, do your thing, man. If that makes you happy, if you want to go to college, go to whatever it is. I don't know about you, but when my wife does something that makes her happy, I'm a pretty happy guy. That's a pretty wonderful experience.
I just think you deserve it.
Exactly.
You deserve good things.
Exactly. But if you go back 2 generations, I don't think you'd hear that.
Wow.
I think you would see men with their role, women with their role, and men unhappy if women stepped out of that role, whatever that perception was.
Think it boils down to a insecurity in the generation? Because if it was an individual, I'd be like, you're just insecure.
I think our awareness of it that's probably accurate.
It's fighting propaganda with education then.
Exactly, because I don't think they would have known that. If you go back to 1850, I don't think they would have understood what you meant by that, even if it were right? You've got the cowboy out on the plains, and he's got a wife who wants to herd cattle and break horses and be an active part of the ranch. Okay, well, that probably wasn't looked upon well by most of the other guys of the time.
I can see the movie scene already.
Exactly.
Get back in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think you're right. And so, was there an insecurity there? Yeah, probably. But they would have just called it culture. I think they would have just said, no, that's the way we are around here, and they'd have been right in their own way. But we have the luxury now of saying, am I upset about my wife going off to do this great career where she's going to make more money than me? Am I upset about that because I'm insecure because she's making more money than me? Or is it something else?
And it's probably all attributable. We can attribute it to the access to information. We are becoming more conscious. We're fighting the propaganda of generations because we have the internet now. We have way more, people are reading books. We're shipping books everywhere. Everyone has the library. Everyone has the access to information, to people's stories too. Just people talking, humanizing every individual because they all have their own platform now. And now we're just getting globalized, slowly locking in. But there's this treacherous water of nuclear powers we have to dance around, and hopefully, boom, we lock it in. What you thinking? What's our forecast?
Oh, man. These are those thoughts that, I have in the dark at 2 a.m, I suppose. I personally think that despite the negative people in the world that certainly have the ability to do damage and seem to enjoy it, I think the majority of people in the world are good. I think the vast majority, in fact, and I think traveling taught me that. I always talk to you guys in class. I always told you guys, go travel, right? If you want to learn how many good people are in the world, go travel. And traveling taught me that most people are really good people. They want a life. They want meaningful work. They want a safe family. They want enough food to eat. I mean, they want interaction with people that are enjoyable. And I think the vast majority of people are like that. And I think because of that, the chance of the world going on in a positive way, I think the chance is much better than not. I really do. I think we're getting better. I think we screw up as humans on a regular basis, but I think there's a lot of what we do in the world that is getting better and better, and we're aware of the things that we're not doing very, very well. And although we like to occasionally ignore them because it's hard to think about them, we don't ignore them. I think we're looking at what we're doing with trash and with nuclear weapons and you name it. I mean,
yeah.
But I look at the crime statistics even, right? And those have gone steadily down for 100 years. And that's a pretty good sign. The violent crimes, we're more aware of them than ever because, it used to be you only heard about the violent crimes in your backyard, right? If they were in your town. But now we hear about them globally. So we think it's worse, but it's really not. Mm-hmm. So I think as a species, I think we're doing okay. And I think we'll continue to do well. There are some things that worry me, right? I mean, there's probably like you, there's, nuclear, and there's the idea of climate change, and
genetic engineering, AI, singularity.
Yeah, absolutely.
We go into the Matrix.
I don't want to be a copper top. But yeah, I think overall, there's far more room for hope and happiness than there is for gloom and doom. So that's my view, I guess.
I love it. I'm on board with you.
Yay.
Let's go into the future with positivity.
That sounds good.
Mr. Dobbs, thank you so much for doing my podcast. I've been aching for this. I love it.
Thank you for having me in. And one of these days, let's do it again down the road a little ways. You just pick a topic, and we'll just come in and you maybe pick books or something, or
Ishmael
or music. Oh, Ishmael. Oh yeah. Or music, or art, or science. Or you pick a topic, and we'll come in and we'll just bat it around.
Let's do it. I love it. I'm all about batting ideas around. I feel like that's the purpose.
I love it.
Until next time. Thank you.
Hey, thank you.